Welcome to Dolphin Dive Daily, your go-to spot for everything Miami Dolphins. If you bleed aqua and orange, hit that subscribe button and join the pod. The Miami Dolphins have found themselves once again at the center of an uncomfortable quarterback conversation, and unfortunately, it all circles back to Tua Tagovailoa. Let's make one thing crystal clear right out of the gate. The Dolphins' disastrous start to the 2025 NFL season is not entirely on Tua. This roster has plenty of problems, from an offensive line still trying to find stability, to a defense that looks more inconsistent than dominant, to a coaching staff trying to figure out how to patch leaks in real time. But here's the real issue for Miami. Their supposed franchise quarterback is no longer a solution, and instead, he's quickly becoming one of the central problems. That is something no one inside the building in South Florida wanted to acknowledge when they signed the checks, handed out the guarantees, and told the world they were all in on their guy. Tua's journey with the Dolphins has always been a roller coaster. From the day he was drafted, the narrative around him has been about health, durability, and whether his body could handle the punishment that comes with playing quarterback in the NFL. That conversation has never truly gone away, and if we're being honest, it probably never will. The Dolphins have lived with that risk because when Tua is sharp, when he is comfortable, when he is in rhythm, he can look like one of the most efficient quarterbacks in football. We saw it in flashes in 2022 and 2023, when he led the league in passer rating one year and passing yards the next. But here's the problem. You can't just be a flashes quarterback when you're being paid like a franchise cornerstone. You can't just be efficient in stretches or when the system protects you. You've got to deliver when it matters most. And right now, Tua hasn't been that guy. The contract, of course, looms like a thundercloud over everything. Miami made its bed last year when it decided to pay him, and it's not an exaggeration to say they're now handcuffed by that decision. With $54 million guaranteed in 2026, the Dolphins are basically tied to Tua, whether they like it or not. The only way out would be through a trade. But tell me, who's lining up to take on that deal if Miami is openly shopping him because he isn't good enough? Releasing him would be even uglier, pushing his 2026 cap hit into the stratosphere, up from $56.4 million to an eye-popping $67.4 million, even with a post-June 1 cut. This is the Russell Wilson in Denver scenario all over again. And while teams have shown they're willing to eat massive contracts to move on from a mistake, it's not exactly common practice. The Dolphins didn't think they'd be here this soon, but here they are, staring at a very expensive dilemma. And what makes it all sting even more for Dolphins fans is that the decline isn't subtle. Tua looks like a different quarterback this season. The quick decision-making, the anticipation, the pinpoint accuracy that used to separate him from others with limited arm talent, it's all faded. Instead, what we're seeing is a quarterback with happy feet, a guy who starts feeling pressure even when it isn't fully there, and who bails out of clean pockets instead of stepping up. The mechanics look rushed, the trust is gone, and the confidence, both in himself and in his offensive line, has evaporated. Miami's line is far from elite, especially with the right side ravaged by injuries to James Daniels and Austin Jackson, but it's not a bottom-of-the-league disaster either. Other quarterbacks would make it work. Tua looks like someone terrified of the next big hit, and when you play that way in this league, it almost never ends well. NFL Network's Tom Pelissero put it bluntly when he described the hoops Mike McDaniel has to jump through just to scheme an offense around a quarterback who can't get hit. Think about that for a second. How do you design an offense in the modern NFL if your quarterback can't be asked to run a sneak, hold the ball too long, or keep a defense honest with a bootleg or zone read? That's not just a limitation, that's a straitjacket. McDaniel can be as creative as he wants, but if the guy under center is playing with those kinds of restrictions, then the whole unit becomes fragile. Every play has to be perfectly timed, every throw has to be precise, every protection has to hold up, and there is absolutely no margin for error. That's no way to live as an offense, and it explains why the Dolphins look stuck in neutral. The late-game failures only magnify the problem. In back-to-back weeks, Miami had chances to steal victories in crunch time, and that's when you find out who your quarterback really is. Franchise quarterbacks are paid to deliver in those moments. Tua didn't. Take the Buffalo game, for example. That interception has been picked apart from every angle. Was it the route, the concept, the throw, the decision? At the end of the day, it doesn't matter. That's a throw that has to be out on time, has to be there the moment Jalen Waddle turns his head, and it wasn't. That's the difference between a win and another disappointing loss. And that's why so many people are beginning to ask whether Tua's ceiling as an NFL quarterback has already been reached. It's worth remembering that Miami has been all in on Tua from the moment Mike McDaniel walked in the door. In fact, McDaniel was hired largely to maximize him, to craft an offense tailored to his strengths, to protect him from his weaknesses, and to finally see what the Dolphins had in the former Alabama star. For a while, it worked. In 2023, Tua stayed healthy, played at a Pro Bowl level, and gave the Dolphins enough reason to believe he was their long-term answer. That was the year they decided to stop hedging bets and commit to him financially. But football is a what have you done for me lately business, and what Tua has done since then is regress. Injuries crept back into the picture in 2024, the downfield passing game disappeared almost entirely, and defenses figured out how to squeeze this offense when they didn't fear the quarterback beating them over the top. Now in 2025, it feels like we're watching the same issues, only magnified. The harsh truth for Dolphins fans is that the window might already be closing. Statistically, starting 0-3 in the NFL is almost a death sentence for playoff hopes, with only 4 teams out of 165 since 2000 managing to climb out of that hole. That's the reality Miami is facing before September is even over. And when you combine the grim math of the standings with the grim reality of the contract, you begin to realize the scope of this dilemma. Miami's dream of finally winning a playoff game for the first time since the turn of the millennium might once again be slipping away, and the quarterback who was supposed to change that narrative is at the center of the collapse. So where do the Dolphins go from here? That's the $1 million, or perhaps more accurately, the $54 million guaranteed question. They can hope Tua finds his rhythm again, that he becomes the efficient, accurate passer we saw 2 years ago, and that this rough start is just a slump. But if we're being realistic, it's fair to ask whether that version of Tua is gone for good, whether 2023 was his peak, and whether Miami simply misread what his ceiling truly was. Maybe he was never going to be more than a solid, efficient system quarterback, and maybe that's not enough when the lights get brighter, the opponents get tougher, and the pressure mounts. The Dolphins took their swing, they pushed their chips to the middle of the table, and now they're stuck waiting to see if the hand they bet on is even worth playing. Right now, all signs point to no. Still with us? Then show some love. Hit that like button and let us know in the comments. What's your take on the Fins this week? Surprise bombshell news has just rocked the NFL landscape, and it comes straight out of South Florida. Dalvin Cook, the explosive running back who once tormented defenses in Minnesota and later made short stints with the Jets, has now signed with the Miami Dolphins. That's right, Cook is coming home, and the football world can barely keep up with the shockwaves this move is sending. Nobody really saw this happening today, but suddenly, out of nowhere, the Dolphins have swooped in and locked down a 4-time Pro Bowler. The chatter across social media exploded the moment word started leaking, and within minutes, the rumor mill turned into reality. Dalvin Cook is officially a Dolphin. It's one of those deals that feels like it could change the shape of the AFC race, and it's already stirring up endless debate among fans, analysts, and even rival players. For Miami, this isn't just about adding a good player. This is about flexing muscles in one of the most competitive conferences we've seen in years. The Dolphins already boast one of the fastest offenses in football, with Tyreek Hill burning defensive backs every Sunday and Jalen Waddle terrorizing secondaries. Now, add Dalvin Cook into that backfield, and suddenly defenses have to pick their poison in ways they've never imagined. Cook is not only an elite rusher who can take it to the house on any given carry, but he's also versatile enough to catch passes, making him another weapon in Mike McDaniel's dynamic system. This is about injecting pure firepower into an already loaded arsenal, and Miami just told the league they're going all in. What makes this signing even juicier is the emotional layer. Dalvin Cook grew up in Miami, played high school ball there, and always carried that hometown kid storyline with him throughout his NFL career. For years, fans whispered about the possibility of him wearing aqua and orange one day, but it always felt like a distant dream. And then, today, that dream materialized. You can already picture the excitement in the community, from kids wearing Cook jerseys in the streets to die-hard Dolphins fans feeling like this is a destiny fulfilled. There's something special about a player of his caliber returning to his roots, and that narrative alone will fuel energy in Miami's fan base like nothing else. It's more than just a signing, it's a homecoming. But let's not act like there aren't questions floating around. Rumors had been swirling about Cook's health after his last season, where his production dipped compared to his peak years in Minnesota. Some critics argue that his burst isn't quite the same, that he's lost a step, and that younger backs could provide more upside. But Miami doesn't seem to care about that chatter. They clearly believe he still has plenty left in the tank, and the Dolphins' offensive scheme might be exactly what he needs to reignite his career. McDaniel is a coach who knows how to create space for running backs, knows how to use motion and speed to put defenders in impossible positions, and Cook could thrive in that environment. And let's be honest, sometimes a player just needs the right situation to shine again. Think about the motivation factor. Dalvin Cook now gets to play for his hometown team, in front of friends, family, and the city that raised him. That kind of emotional fuel can't be underestimated. It could easily add that extra spark, that drive to prove he's still one of the league's most dangerous weapons. Combine that with Miami's already electric roster, and it's hard not to see this as a massive win for the Dolphins. Meanwhile, across the league, the reaction is pure chaos. Jets fans, who once cheered Cook as their own, are stunned to see him join a division rival. Patriots and Bills fans are groaning at the thought of another weapon entering the AFC East arms race. And neutral fans are buzzing because this move adds so much intrigue to an already stacked conference. Imagine the Dolphins squaring off against the Chiefs, Ravens, or Bengals with Cook lining up in the backfield. Suddenly, defenses have to account for even more speed, even more unpredictability, and it makes Miami one of the most dangerous teams on paper. This also raises the stakes for Tua Tagovailoa. With Hill, Waddle, and now Cook, the Dolphins' offense is designed for fireworks. But with all that talent comes pressure. There are no more excuses. Miami has given Tua everything he needs to succeed, and fans will expect results immediately. The franchise is clearly pushing chips to the center of the table, signaling that the time to win is now. Whether it's fair or not, Cook's signing amplifies expectations not only for himself, but for the entire Dolphins roster. Behind the scenes, whispers suggest Miami's front office had been quietly pursuing this deal for weeks, keeping negotiations under wraps until the perfect moment. That makes the announcement today even more shocking, because while other teams were rumored to have interest, nobody had pegged Miami as the favorite to land him. The Dolphins played it close to the chest, and now they've delivered one of the splashiest moves of the season. That element of surprise, the secrecy, only adds to the drama of the moment. As we speak, fans are already dreaming about highlight reels that will come out of this. Picture it, Tyreek stretching the field deep, Waddle cutting across the middle, and Cook bursting through a gap, leaving linebackers flat-footed. Picture Tua running play action with Cook behind him, forcing safeties to hesitate just long enough for Hill to blow past them. The possibilities are endless, and it feels like Miami's offense is about to become one of the most must-watch spectacles in football. The other big storyline here is what this means for the Dolphins' identity. Miami has often been viewed as a team that leans on flash and speed, sometimes criticized for lacking balance. But Dalvin Cook brings a physical edge, a runner who can grind out tough yards when needed, not just sprint past defenders. That kind of versatility could be the missing piece, turning the Dolphins from a finesse team into a complete one. It's not just about highlight plays anymore. It's about building an offense that can dominate in different ways, adapt to different situations, and win when it matters most. Of course, skeptics will point out that star signings don't always translate to immediate success. Chemistry has to be built, roles have to be defined, and egos have to be managed. But Cook doesn't arrive as a diva demanding spotlight. He arrives as a veteran hungry to prove himself again. In many ways, this could be the perfect marriage between player and team. Miami gives him the stage, he gives them the production, and together they chase glory. So, today feels like one of those days fans will look back on and say, that was the moment everything changed. Dalvin Cook in Miami is more than just a transaction. It's a statement, it's a gamble, and it's a storyline that will dominate conversations for weeks to come. Whether it leads to a playoff run, a Super Bowl push, or just a burst of excitement in South Florida, one thing is for certain. The Dolphins have just shaken up the NFL world in a big way. And with the season heating up, Everyone will be watching closely to see if this bombshell move pays off. That's a wrap for today's dive. If you're loving the content, share it with a fellow Dolphins fan, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications so you never miss a splash. Fins up.